Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network, and we are remote today. Had to swim over to the Big Island, Mackinac, and we are here in the Grand Hotel for the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce's annual policy conference, and we're here right now with Carl Bednarski from Farm Bureau. And you know what? I got 8 million questions for you right now, right? I mean, our first industry here might have been timbering, it might have been furring, but it was closely followed by farming. So you have to say it's probably that industry that made us reach around the world first.
Well, absolutely. You take a look at agriculture, and everyone needs it. We all eat every day, and it's great to be part of that industry and supplying that safe and affordable food for all the American people, and even for so many of those markets overseas that depend on our products.
Well, listen, all my uncles were farmers, and of course you got the same call that I did in the fall. It's time to put up hay, right? So let's get
Let's get to work. Let's get to work.
So we were all a week out at my uncle's. But with that in mind, you can't think of a farmer, without pulling up to the table. I mean, they're just so essential to life, and we also have kind of led the world in exporting what we grow here. Tell me about that, because that's a worry right now.
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of uncertainty out there in exports and what's going on nationally in this country. But the thing is, the farmers, agriculture is what everyone considers is the tip of the spear, because we export so much into these other markets that's how they can retaliate and try to get the most effect is to go after the farmers. But these are markets that we have built up for many, many years. And you ask any farmer out there, and he would love to be able to sell his product to an open market instead of having a subsidy or indirect payment of some kind. We want to use those markets. We want to be able to provide them that safe food, and we want to do what we do best, is produce it. But when we take a look at some of these agreements, like recently the USMCA, which was in earlier days was the NAFTA agreement, was been in effect for many years, and decided to restructure it with Mexico and Canada.
So let me ask you there, were we happy with the old agreement?
The old agreement worked well. Agriculture benefited very well over the years on that. It expanded markets that we catered to. So yes, for agriculture, it was very good. For Michigan in particular, it was a very good agreement. Okay,
so now we're moving into a new era.
Well, absolutely. Now we take a look at revisiting NAFTA, which you take a look at it. It's been in effect for 25 plus years. Well, probably needs to change a little bit. So, yes, let's take a look at it. But then I guess you could say politics rolled into it a little bit. And
you could say that.
It kind of muddied the waters a little bit. But there was a number of things that happened. We had some tariffs that were put in place in the case of steel and aluminum, which are called the 232 tariffs. And that affected the Mexico and Canada. And so all of a sudden the agreement was kind of put on the back burner until we could fix those tariffs. So.
Well, and I think people really, because the headlines are now all about China, but this is where it started. This is where it began. And the ramifications of that, a lot of times there's really unknown consequences or unforeseen consequences.
Well, when you take a look at trade, absolutely. We have a great deal that was created not only for agriculture with the USMCA, but also manufacturing, and even labor has some issues that were addressed that are beneficial. So we did have some great things that came out of the new USMCA. And just recently, the president has come to an agreement and dropped the 232 tariffs with steel and aluminum. And so right now it's like, okay, let's go full speed forward. There's nothing holding back. Let's make sure we push this trade agreement over the finish line.
Well, and that was playing heck with the brewing industry as well. I mean, that was huge.
Well, there was a lot of industries that were sitting out there that wanted to get this across the finish line. Mexico wants to do it. Canada wants to do it. We want to do it. All we have to do now is to get Congress to ratify it, and then we're on our way.
And then we're moving on our way. All right, let me ask you this. How is the small farmer? I go to bed at night worried for the small farmer. How's the small farmer doing?
Well, right now, farmers in general are are really struggling out there. And not only with the trade issues, which is a big impact on their bottom line, but when you take a look at the weather we're dealing with right now, I mean, it's they say the wettest, coldest spring in 124 years. There's a lot of crops that go in the ground. And the thing is, though, the clock is ticking, and these producers are knowing the longer they wait, that their yields are going to be less, and can they get it planted? Very concerning out there in the countryside for small farmers, all farmers in that same boat. But when you say small farmers, it's affecting everyone. It doesn't matter if you're small or large. It just affects you in a different way. So agriculture right now is in a very precarious position in time with the weather. And then, like I said, not only the USMCA trade agreement, you mentioned China, we're talking the EU, we're talking Japan, we're talking a lot of different trade agreements all at once.
No, you're absolutely right. And the one thing small business doesn't like, and a lot of farmers can be categorized as small businesses, is uncertainty.
Uncertainty is a killer. Yeah. You love to be able to plan. You love to be able to take out as many uncertainties as you can in that world. I mean, you want to be able to do projections just like small businesses. You want to project a profit at the end of the year. But with agriculture, we're very unique because Mother Nature can throw us a curve and throw our model completely out the window. So it's an interesting concept that I think a lot of people out there don't really grasp of how we're at the risk of so many outside influences that we cannot control.
Well, listen, better days ahead. Let's toast on that, all right?
Well, there's always better days ahead. We always look forward to them. So that's why we're here year in and year out. We're going to keep going.
There you go. Carl Bednarski, thanks so much for being with us, CEO of Farm Bureau. Appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Bud. All right. As you heard, we are on the island, Mackinac Island, for the policy conference put on by the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce. You're listening and watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman. We'll be back.